All right, so now we're gonna jump in to the Alien franchise. Yay! Ah boy, that series that admittedly could have been a lot better as when you use the word franchise now, like you think with franchise it will just get better and better. You might have a little missteps along the way, but it will just continually get better and better and better. But this one here, boy, Rocky, boy. That's the best way to describe it. A really Rocky.
Yeah, that's a good.
Franchise. Man.
All right, that's a good comparison actually. I didn't think of that.
It is in a way like the Rocky franchise, but Rocky kind of tends to get better though when it gets more self-aware. Just saying, but
Here the thing, right? That's the thing. Is Rocky before Rocky 6? Let us say that because we had some Rocky 5 bullshit going on.
Oh yes, go for it.
Yeah. So let's run through the franchise.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about Covenant.
Right. So I'll just get a little brief history about the series itself, and you'll understand why. In a bit. Okay. So once upon a time, a director by the name of John Carpenter made a student film, which became his first debut feature called Dark Star, which I still have yet to see. It's pretty much like a for 2001 stuff. Yeah. I've always meant to see that. I know I love McCall films, but I just never got around to seeing that. I know, shame on me. And I'm supposed to be a big John Carpenter fan. But anyway, so one of the writers of it was Dan O'Bannon. And he had basically
Well, I wanted to mention, before we mention, I wanted to mention one of my favorite directors, if probably not my personal favorite, Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Yes.
He is, so you could say he's kind of heavily involved in the Alien franchise by kind of default. Now, about how much years ago this came out, boy? About how long this came out? About 3-4 years ago? A documentary known as Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yes. He was working on Dune around that time. Yeah. Well, sorry, he was in pre-production actually, I think.
You're right.
Pre-production.
What happens that you could say that Jodorowsky kind of somewhat discovered Dan O'Bannon to a certain extent.
Right.
And H.R. Geiger.
Yes. The late
those
great
two men,
surrealist
surrealist artist, And you could see a lot of those ideas. When you watch some of the ideas that Jodorowsky does, it's like, there's some alien stuff going on there.
Okay. All right.
And you could say if it wasn't for that film kind of died a death and created other sci-fi. If it wasn't for that film dying, a lot of great sci-fi would have never existed in a sense now. So that's the history I wanted to mention. But Dan O'Bannon I wanted to bring up. And of course,
but very good point that you made there with Jodorowsky and his Dune pre-production, because that stuff was going along while they were working on the script here, which was called Star Beast. Basically, it's like Dan O'Bannon had some ideas that he had left over from Dark Star, stuff that he wanted to explore. Basically, people in a spaceship being threatened by this by this creature. So he collaborated with another screenwriter by the name of Ronald Shusett, and they were working on the script. And around that time, I believe that's when Jodorowsky was kind of still in pre-production with Dune, and then he got on board with H.R. Geiger or Giga, I think. How do you pronounce his name? Whatever. I think it's Giga. I think Geiger as in Geiger counter. Yeah.
Right. No, I think it's Giga because I hear most people pronounce it Giga, but I've heard so many people pronounce it Geiger. I have to get into just a quick aside.
Yeah.
I have to get into the arguments about what exactly does justify a pronunciation in one way or the other, because it has so many arguments about how things are pronounced. And we had to start sorting that out. That's the one little metaphysics I want to sort out.
Geiger,
probably not metaphysics, more like I think, or whoever. It'll be all kind of bullshit. Like everybody who had to correct another person, it's always be like a little brownie point you had to get for yourself for correcting a person's pronunciation. But if I remember correctly, it's supposed to be Giga.
Right.
Supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So around that time, the studio that they got involved with Brandywine Productions, and they were they were tied to 20th Century Fox. At the time, they were like, they liked the idea, but 20th Century Fox at the time was like, well, nobody gonna come to cinema, come to theaters to watch a B movie about some people on a spaceship being terrorized by some space creature, whatever. But after the success of a little movie called Star Wars, back in May 25th of 1977, and yes, we will be celebrating its 40th anniversary this upcoming Thursday. You know,
Right.
that just puts the genre of sci-fi in a whole new level there. So of course, 20th Century Fox is like, oh shit, well, we have a gold mine here with Star Wars, so we need another script. We need another script. So it's like, hey, here's this. Well, at the time they changed it to from Star Beast to Alien, because their excuse is that they said the word alien like about 5 times in the script. So it's like, all right, well, fine. Let me just change the damn thing to alien. So cool, because they didn't really have a name for it. It's like, fuck it, let's just call it Alien. And yeah, and from there now, well, basically the screenwriters had it in mind to just be this B movie kind of sci-fi horror flick, but the studio at the time was like, you know what, it just needs some class, boy. It needs some gloss. So they got on board with a British director by the name of Ridley Scott, who a couple of years before did a film called The Duelist, which I haven't seen, honestly, and I supposed to be a big Ridley Scott fan. But it's a period piece, actually, costume drama, I think it is. And he brought the credibility to this film. So like, he kind of went in, he knew that it was just going to be this horror film with a guy in a rubber suit, but he just put a lot of technical, you know, class and just overall excellence to it. So it just kind of elevated the story from just being this kind of B movie thing, which technically, when you think about it, is just a kind of basic haunted house movie, but just set in space. But here he just turned it into something totally different. And you know, the movie came out in 1979. At first, it got mixed reviews because, you know, at the time, sci-fi, when people talk about sci-fi, they're thinking 2001, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and of course Star Wars. But this one was like something totally different. Like, nobody ever saw a horror film take place in outer space. Oh yes, and there was also like those dystopian sci-fi like Solid Green and Logan's Run and those kind of shows. But this one was like the first of its kind. It was a legit sci-fi horror flick. And today it is regarded as both one of the best sci-fi movies and one of the best horror movies of all time. I more see it as one of the best sci-fi. I mean, it is horrific, but I don't see it as a horror. It's more like sci-fi, but with horror elements. It more plays on these sci-fi elements. You know, these characters in the ship discovering this new world. In this case, is them basically this ship Nostromo, and they answer this distress beacon that's on this unknown planet. They reach there, and you know, they see the eggs, and one of the characters played by the late great John Hurt gets infected with that infamous face hugger scene. And then also on the subject of that chest burster scene, believe it or not, the reactions for the actors, they did not know. So when that thing burst, that reaction that they got, that, oh my god, that kind of thing, that was real shit.
Yeah, that was real.
That was real.
Yeah, I think that was real. Yeah.
And the first time that you do see that chest burster, like, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, this is like the freakiest shit I ever saw in my life, though. The way how the tail was stood in, the way how the mouth was opening here, and then that kind of thing. And then when it slides out and goes onto the floor, that was incredible to me. But really, what made the show so great as well, too, the standout performance, I could easily say, without a doubt, Sigourney Weaver, you know, who plays Ellen Ripley.
Yep.
And what I like, though, is how the story was set up in such a way that you didn't really know who the main protagonist was. At first, I thought it was Dallas, played by Tom Skerritt, because his name shows up first. Sorry. But at the end, it turns out to be Sigourney, because at the end, she survives. She's the lone survivor here. Well, her and you know, that cat, you know. And it sets up this formula that we've seen in technically the last two, and of course Prometheus and Alien Covenant, where you have this female character, you know, just telling people, hey, don't do this, don't do that, and they're like, no, it'll be fine, man, don't worry, just go in that cave, you know, look down into that egg that just opened up. What's that thing? Ooh, you know, just listen to the woman. Fuck, just listen to what they say. You know what I mean?
But short
also is that
women with short hair.
Yeah. And yes, with the short hair and the tank top and stuff. But really what it is, what I love about it personally, is that it really showed how courageous she was. You did see her vulnerable. You did see her in fear, especially in the end with that really creepy scene where she was in the escape pod, whatever.
Yeah.
And you see the alien like right in the middle of like a bunch of wires and stuff. I actually thought I was like still up to this day that scene just creeps me out. Like the lighting and the way how the creature design looks, because if you really think about it, if it's concealed in shadow, it looks like a bunch of like wires and all these kind of metallic kind of stuff just wrapped together to form this kind of creature. It's this weird kind of design. The way how it kind of hid there in that part of the ship was really genuinely creepy. And just seeing Ripley being scared, and she was singing that "You Are My Lucky Star" scene, but she was doing something. She wasn't just cowering in fear like Lambert's character, who played by Veronica Cartwright did, where she's all like and always screaming and shit. She did stuff. She took action. She was scared, but she did stuff, and that's what I really love about her character. And yeah, for me, this is one of my all-time favorite movies. Although the sequel is far better, in my opinion. If you were to wanted to choose between the two, I easily would pick Aliens. But this one works in terms of this slow building terror, and just the fact that it was all about not showing too much of the alien, which is a technique that of course Spielberg perfected in Jaws. Not showing too much of the creature. He's there, but they're not sure how big he is or where he is or where that dripping liquid came from and all that kind of stuff. But just what they did in terms of the set design, which still holds up to this day. The set design, the lighting, the music, which was done by the late great Jerry Goldsmith, and just building this tension and fear, it still holds up. Right. So, what are your thoughts on Alien? Do you love it, or do you think it still holds up as a?
The first Alien for me is like pretty much a borderline masterpiece in my opinion of filmmaking and sci-fi filmmaking.
Right.
Didn't make any sense of the world, and again, it does a thing that they decide to build off of, which is the stupidest idea when you think about it. They decide to not explain anything. That's actually pretty smart.
Yeah.
Much smarter than you think. Because you realize when you try to explain the thing,
exactly,
you fuck it up.
It just falls apart. Especially with this whole thing with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, which is the shadowy corporation that sends the crew out in the first place here.
Yeah, that is it. You don't need to get all existential about that. Yes, look, it's the corporation.
Yes,
on
and
the ship.
That's what the first movie is set up. When you think about it, it's the ship, the corporation, the alien.
Right. Right.
Like
that's all you need to do with that.
Because of something. It wasn't like in depth. You didn't need to know all that kind of stuff. One thing that always used to kind of throw me off a bit was the character of Ian Holm, who plays the spoiler alert android. Because of the way how he kind of reacts. So it's almost like this kind of flight response where he just suddenly turns violent and he's throwing Ripley about. And then all of a sudden when they hit him, starts to spaz out. I was at first, like when I used to, like the first few times I was watching, I was kind of like, well, why would this android, this near perfect machine suddenly spaz out and, twitch and all that kind of stuff. I always felt that was weird.
The idea was that, remember, you're supposed to cover up. It was a whole cover up thing where the corporation was trying to do, that Weyland-Yutani is trying to do. So that was part of it, I think.
Yeah, the idea was supposed to get a sample of the creature.
Right.
And they wanted to test on it because it's like the quote-unquote the perfect organism. Because it could survive in a lot of conditions and evolve and stuff. And we've seen this evolution throughout the entire series here. But the way how, just watching it again, I love how they built up that character. At first, you wasn't sure where he was on, but they do all these subtle hints where he's sweating like in one shot, a side view, and if you look closely, you see it's white, that white sweat.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That kind of thing. And yeah, the acting was excellent. What I really love is how real these characters felt. They didn't feel like the Starship Enterprise. It felt like real people who were just doing a job for money. And just happened to be involved in the situation.
It's truckers in space.
Yeah, truckers. Basically, that was the
blue colors,
from the beginning.
Yeah, because that's fascinating as well. Is the idea of blue collar work in space now? Just it's blue colors, it's not hype. It's not these brilliant people in the like Star Trek where everybody all brilliant and
and have a PhD in this and knowledgeable in that, whatever.
Right, all that bullshit.
Yeah, like Yafit Koto's character, the lone black man in it. He just downright just going for the money, bro. I respect that. I like that. It's like, when are we gonna get paid, Jen?
Yeah,
like we said, like we gotta get paid,
and because they're blue collar and they're disposable because it's a corporation that just need people to go to space and they'll pay them well. It's just truckers in space.
Yeah.
That's it. Simple.
Right.
Don't need to overthink this.
Yeah.
Right.
So
then
yeah.
Go ahead.
Right. So then we jump into Aliens, which actually took a little bit longer to come into production. Because I think at first either the studio or the writers themselves weren't really interested in doing a sequel or something like that. I'm not too sure. But yeah, they got James Cameron on board, who, well, of course, he, not just directing probably one of the best sci-fi movies ever and one of the best debut movies ever, The Terminator, which was a smash hit, but also a great screenwriter, at least in my opinion. And they got him on board to work on Aliens, which came out in 1986.
Yeah.
And what I like about this, first of all, is that, with something like this, and this is a question that they will ask again, where do we go from here? We can't do the same thing again, so we have to kind of step it up. In this case, because James Cameron and, his sci-fi action stuff with Terminator, they said, well, you know what, let me make it an action flick. But let's amp up the tension, let's amp up the scares, let's amp everything up, like up to 10.
Yeah.
And in true 80s Hollywood fashion, you have to bring in those Marines, man. In the 80s, especially like movies like Predator, for example, it's all about the Marines and soldiers and we are number one, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Hoorah!
It was the Ronald Reagan era.
Like, oh my God, this is so 80s shit. This is the way how the Marines talk, like assholes and elbows. Come on, man, come on. So 80s.
Yeah.
So G.I. Joe.
And then, of course,
G.I. Joe shit.
And then this movie, well, the second film also had the late great
Bill Paxton.
Game Over, man. Game Over.
Game over, man.
Sorry?
Game over.
Game Over.
Classic.
Aliens just so quotable.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Aliens. Aliens just so goddamn quotable.
Everybody online, looking good.
They mostly come out at night, mostly.
Yeah, they mostly come out at night, mostly. Carrie Hahn.
Yeah.
Great performance for a child actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe she's British, actually, so they just brought her on board here. And her brother, her real life brother, played the character, Newt's brother, in the film, who dies early.
Right.
But what I really love about the movie is just really, like I say, how they amp everything up, It's not just Ripley, but it's this team and how they going in, trying to stop these aliens, and just the threat of the aliens. The aliens themselves in this movie are way more terrifying, not just because it's a large amount of them, but just the way how they move. Like you're seeing that they could crawl on walls and they could swim and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very intense, very creepy as well. James Horner's score, wow, that is how you do a tense-filled score. There's just so much moments with his music popping, and I could just feel like goosebumps, in those moments where the action amps up and stuff. The third act for me is really like probably the best moment in the entire movie. Like, I mean, the first and second acts are great, but the third act, oh my God, is just nail-biting tension from beginning to end. I just love everything about it. Lance Henriksen, who plays Bishop. I love how they added a spin to the android character, so he's not untrustworthy. At first you're not sure what he's up to, but he does come true. He does help out as well. Michael Biehn, who played Reese in Terminator 1, he shows back up as Hicks, one of the Marines. So he's basically the father figure to Newt, who is one of the survivors of the planet from the first film, which is terraformed. So they introduce this whole thing of terraforming here, where they find a planet and now they want to make it hospitable for human life and stuff. Dumb idea, I know, but whatever, is the future. And of course, Sigourney Weaver being this mother figure. And what I love, like, especially if you see director's cut, they established that Ripley had a daughter and she got old and died. So here, she has this new daughter, quote unquote, in the form of Newt, and you really saw her as his motherly character. And one brilliant scene where she goes into the mech machine, is like, "Stay away from her, you bitch! Sorry, get away from her, you bitch!" Classic line.
Here's the thing. Okay, so here's what I recommend for anybody who haven't seen it yet. I remember seeing this years ago, and I was like, not the movie. I saw the movie when it was like when I was a kid.
Right.
But
Me too.
I remember seeing this. There's a great alien. Look up Amazing Aliens Rap. Right? It's a guy called Robo Mayhem on YouTube, and this guy raps out the entire plot. And what he does, he'll cut in his lyrics with actual dialogue from the movie, so it'll rhyme now. right? It's a little on the wonky end, a little offbeat, but goddamn, it is so entertaining because you basically run through the entire plot. I recommend anybody look it up. It's really funny. Aliens is Aliens is awesome. This movie was this movie was freaking fantastic for me. Was the female Hispanic woman name who's not played by a Hispanic?
I forget her name, but she was
Ramirez.
A badass too. Oh my god.
You're right. And then had this kick-ass scene with two of them posing with the guns.
Yes, I love it. Real posing off with the guns, like flexing biceps and stuff. Yeah.
Right,
so
but
80s.
You're right, so 80s. But no, that movie is awesome. Oh, New Kid from Orbit, only way to be sure. That amazing quote.
Yeah.
That's an internet meme now. Anytime somebody you do something and you see something like you just don't want to be a part of at all, just say New Kid from Orbit, you know. Yeah, only way to be sure. Right. Shit like that. This movie is an excellent movie. Again, a great sequel and follow-up. And again, logically, it makes good sense. All you had to do is say, all right, you had a badass alien, just do the same thing with more of it and with guns.
Exactly.
This time.
And what a lot of guns. In terms of like James Cameron, it shows that the man knows how to do sequels, because 6 years later, he did, which is, in my opinion, the best, yes, I said it, the best action movie of all time, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Yes. Yeah. I said it. Yes. Best action movie ever. It shows that the man could do sequels and not just taking what was great about the original film and expanding on it, but also adding some new elements and also giving us characters that we could care for and root for and connect with, And you got that. You got a lot of heart, a lot of emotion. You felt the fear that these characters were going through, even right down to Bill Paxton when he was just that guy who just giving up on hope. But there are moments where it's like, oh shit, well, we done for. So you could understand why you say game over, man, game over. You laugh at it now, but it's like, shit, done.
Hot.
But this show was a huge hit. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. It won 2, I believe. Wow. Well, 1 for Best Visual Effects, and believe it or not, Sigourney Weaver got nominated for Best Actress for a sci-fi action flick. That is amazing. But yeah, her character is, wow, hands down one of the best female characters I've ever seen on film. Just how strong she was, even when she was behind the control room helping out the soldiers at first, the Marines at first, and then when she actually goes in with Newt, and especially that third act where she's going out of her way to rescue her. I thought, just her performance, her acting, everything there was just fantastic. So yeah, this was a massive hit. Still one of the best sequels ever made, hands down. And then some happened, boy. So
I don't know.
So of course,
all right. So we had to talk
about that.
So
that
one of my favorite filmmakers, probably ever, was involved with this next movie.
Yes,
a man called David Fincher.
One of the greats. Greats working today, actually, I must say.
Yeah. In my opinion, a fantastic filmmaker. Now here's my thing. Yeah, again, we'll get into the fact that how much Fox as a studio constantly does this, because they have a repeat offender. The amount of fuckery that went down behind the scenes with Alien 3 and screwing over, everybody in the production. And you could see, so I decided to watch over Alien 3. It's a movie that I really don't remember all that much about. It's just such a hot mess.
You always remember 1 and 2, but you don't remember 3 and 4,
Right. And well, I remember 4 a lot. I actually remember 4. But I really don't remember 3 all that much.
Right.
And with 3, I watched it back over just the other day, just to prepare for this episode. And I was like, you're watching the whole thing right through. I was like, you could totally understand where they fucked this up, John. How they fuck it up. The edits, some of the edits rush in a bad way. You could tell, it was a mess on set. It had a decent enough premise, but boy, they just mess up that script. They decided they off panel Newt. Like, holy crap, they decided to just kill off Newt.
I mean, Bishop, as in Lance Henriksen's character, dying, okay. Yeah, but not Newt and Hicks, man. Like, what the fuck, man? Why them? Why the family
after
structure?
All of that time, after all of that shit. So that just was like a kick in the nuts to the fan base now.
Yes, boy. On the subject of that, just to stop you there. The beginning of this film, right? Well, I saw the quote-unquote assembly cut, right? Which is where without David Fincher's consent, because legendarily, yes, he does not want anything to do with this movie. He claims that he is the one person on planet Earth, who hates this movie. Nobody else hates it as much as he does, and I totally understand after seeing this assembly cut here. But yeah, this one added it added the stuff that he wanted initially, but it changed up for the theatrical cut. But basically, the intro, based off of how Aliens ended, made no sense. Like, I wasn't sure the time frame of it, because what happened is, like, some face or whatever was on the ship, it attacked, and something happened with the emergency system, and that's how Newton and Hicks died. But I'm like, how much years passed? It's not like all of a sudden, let me just say, like 57 years later, suddenly this chest burster or whatever is active, and now it trying to attack
none of it
people.
Made sense.
It didn't make any sense. And then, like, when I read about it on Wikipedia, what they said is that basically it was just an excuse just to bring in another alien. And when I hear that, I was like, really? So all they just had to shoehorn an alien, but they didn't know how to do it. So it's like, oh well, let's just have an alien on the ship, even though there was no alien on the ship at the very end, you know. But one of them actually came in, and blah 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 blah, and that's how we got Alien 3. Yeah. Come on. Really?
It didn't work. Here's the thing: it had good people in this movie. It had Charles S. Dutton. He was good in this, I thought.
Remember Rock? Axel
Kids? Yeah, Rock.
Rock was going on at the time when he did this.
At the time, right? Yeah. I know, but I thought he was a decent enough character in this. I didn't think he was so bad.
Yeah, I like this character.
Charles
that kind of it's a prison plan basically. So he's trying to change his life and that kind of stuff. Charles Dance, I was like, holy shit, he's in this too. Okay.
Good in this.
Yeah,
he's pretty good in this. It had a good, decent enough, like, the character, like, I get what he was trying to go for, but again, the studio just didn't give a fuck and just say, look, as usual with studios, and again, as I would say with Fox in particular, they just always show a sign of not caring, and they'll just completely shit on a project, and they say, look, if you don't fall in line with what we think, we'll destroy this whole movie, Dread.
Right.
We do business.
No,
we don't goddamn business.
Yeah, no,
Fox
one
don't
thing,
give
right?
a fuck.
Yeah, no, I was watching the assembly cut, and I'll just say this: if you want me to review it, I felt it was dull and boring. I just didn't care about anything or anyone. The biggest sin for me is that you took a great character of Ellen Ripley, and you just like dilute the character. She just don't care.
Yeah, nonsense.
And it's not just because they shave she hair ball, and there's this whole issue with the contract about her wanting to do it and all that kind of shit. I'm not even gonna get into that. But just her character was just so dull and lifeless. But it's just like she just give up on hope, and she just run through the motions. But one thing that confused the hell out of me, and still up to this day, maybe it's because I was sleeping with my eyes open, but I just didn't pick up on it, right? So in the assembly cut, not the director's cut, oops, wrong term. There's like this ox, right? So basically they're raising some oxen in some part, right? And one of the oxen is brought on board, and in this really particularly creepy and disturbing scene, this one scene actually creeped the shit out of me. Okay, keep cutting back and forth, and you're just seeing the chest opening there. That actually freaked me out.
I know that.
That was cool. So at the back of my mind, it's like, all right, the alien is inside this ox, it's coming out. In the theatrical cut, it's a dog, and I don't remember the theatrical cut, but from the clip I saw,
I saw that version. I saw the version you're talking about with the ox,
Right. So, how did the alien get in the ox? Now, the speculation is the whole lice thing, because there was some lice on the ground when they pulled out Ripley onto this beach, which had like oil and stuff. It was dirty and stuff, and it was like lice all over the place. I was wondering if the lice is what somehow ate the freaking chest burster or whatever, or face hugger or whatever, and it went into the ox. I don't know, how did that get in the ox?
Actually, the latest films explain a lot of that shit, because Prometheus and Covenant does somewhat explain this to a certain extent, which is the black goo thing.
The black goo. Okay.
Right. That bullshit. But you see, in the original 4 films, you wouldn't know that at all. No. Like, you couldn't piece that together. I couldn't piece it together.
All you knew is facehugger, chest burster. That's all you're given.
Right. That's it. Exactly. So and that's the thing. Well, a lot of these movies try to like do a lot of back peddling bullshit now. Yeah. That's one of the problems with the franchise, that the franchises are generally a mess. So whatever.
Yeah. There's a couple things to talk about before we jump into Alien Resurrection, right? So, another thing, the CG fit, I wasn't impressed by it. The production design was decent for the most part.
Yeah, no, the alien, that stop motion, the alien that came out of the ox, that was terrible.
Yeah, something about how it
looked
bad.
Well, I don't know if I'd be impressed with that at the time, like when that came out. But I watch it now, it's like, yeah, that don't hold up
at all.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it was like an evolved version of it, and that's another thing that they kind of play around in this series. Evolved, so I assume, because it looked different compared to how the xenomorphs looked in like the first and second film. It looked like it was evolved somehow, right? And then they had this really terrible ending where, heaven knows how the fuck Ripley knows is a queen inside of her, but she knows it's a queen, right? She knows it's a queen because that's why the xenomorph is following she all over the place. And in one scene, one of the iconic scenes where the alien was breathing on her and Ripley's all scared and shit, which kind of is against a character in my opinion. But anyway,
it's an iconic scene because it looked badass and everything.
That's like that one scene you remember from like the trailers and stuff.
But the movie, that's the thing I remember.
You always remember that one shot, But she have a queen inside of her, so she just sacrifices her life and then she falls down into this lava pit. Now in the theatrical cut apparently, the queen burst out and she held it.
Okay.
She held it back. Not cradling, but kind of she was stuffing it back because she didn't want it to fly out.
To come out, right?
And she falls into the pit. But in the assembly cut, they changed that entirely. It's like, fuck this shit, it don't work. So they just have it just fall into the pit. And I think the chest bursts and she just dies. Okay, whatever, it ends. I find that was a total letdown of an ending. Like, to me,
mess.
Like,
total mess.
If you were thinking about it, like back in '92. This is how you end your trilogy. That's a terrible way to end a trilogy. That's like the Matrix Revolutions of the Alien series thus far. Like, man, don't kick your audience in the nuts like that. Just come on with something better than that. Yeah. And then you make your character so vulnerable, like to the point that she was weak. And then the whole thing with her in a plan with a bunch of men. Interesting kind of premise, but making her so weak, it's like, and last thing I'll say, I barely remember her doing anything. Like in 1 and 2, she took action. 3, I don't even know what she did. I don't know.
Yeah.
What did she do? I don't know. She just cowered in fear and she fell into a lava pit. That's all I remember. Everything else is just characters dying and shit. Characters that you don't care about, by the way. Which leads us to Alien Resurrection. Which came out in the same year, by the way, that 2 of the most legendarily bad movies of all time came out. Mortal Kombat Annihilation and Batman and Robin. So boy, 97 was a year, boy.
Yeah, a hot mess year.
A hot mess year. But Alien Resurrection in retrospect wasn't like a big, gigantic flop like those 2. But yeah, it was terrible. No. It was terrible.
Yeah, this was a garbage movie. And the thing is that with I had people I like in it. It had
Ron Perlman was in it.
Ron Perlman was in this, yeah?
My boy who played the drug dealer fella from Breaking Bad. I'm forgetting his name.
Right.
Yeah. Tuco is in this movie.
Bryan Cranston?
No, not Bryan Cranston. Tuco, the guy he was trying to do, the crazy Mexican drug lord. Yeah, him. He was in that. Winona Ryder, who was big at the time as an actress.
As a robot. Yeah.
Terrible casting choice, by the way. Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah, she was horrible.
But the worst thing that they do,
because like, wait, why do you have an android in this? Because and all the androids must be male. Like, why do you have a female android in this? And I remember again, Ridley Scott like to fuck around. He was like trying to square the idea. Well, it really the Blade Runner universe anyway. So all of them is replicants, and all of that is the same. Like,
really?
It's a different company.
I never look at it like that, to be honest. I never look at the replicants.
He's trying to
being that.
Always try to do that bullshit. He's is really this, and he tried to like square his universes now. And again, he like terrible in now, like whatever, fuck that.
Right. But the worst thing that they do in terms of characterization. Listen, but the worst thing that they do in terms of characterization was Ellen Ripley. What the fuck was up with that character? All of a sudden, she like real overtly sexual, and there's like these really creepy moments with her and Winona Ryder where she like staring she down and hugging she up and stroking her hair and like, what the fuck is this? And I'll just get to one big gigantic flow with it, right? But once again, the answer is because we need an alien. So in last episode, we saw Ripley fall into a pit and die.
Right.
Now we cut to years later, and Weyland Yutani, I believe, are trying they clone her and they're doing these aliens again, right? So at first, when we introduce Ripley, you see the chest burst inside of her, right? So I was wondering at first, well, two things. First of all, did they put that inside of her and it was just testing to see how she was able to cope with that physically? But then that don't make sense, because look at the other characters, like from the previous Alien series, they had this thing inside of them and then suddenly they spaz out and boom, it come out. It's just like Alien 3 for some reason. It just took her a long while and then it's in the end it come out. But how would Weyland Yutani know about this? Because it's only near the end when they came to... I don't know, I think they came to intervene or whatever, but they just came when she died. And then secondly, if that's not the case, then how they managed to clone her with this chest burster inside of her? How?
I don't give a shit.
But the reason is because we need an alien in this movie.
Yeah.
But
it didn't work.
Make no sense, Fred. Why? What?
Yeah.
It's not enough. It's not hard enough you had a clone Ripley of all people, but no, let's just introduce her with this chest burster so people think, so maybe she didn't die after all. Maybe Weyland Yutani came and took the body and the alien was still inside. So that's how they got to do this.
Bullshit.
But it still don't make no sense.
She fell in a big metal pit, a molten steel pit, so whatever. This movie, and then they had the goal to do this bullshit. They had the goal to do this bullshit. The alien baby thing in the end. Holy fuck, Judd. That was a terrible choice. I think
one of the ugliest,
most
unintentionally dumbest things I've ever seen in film ever. Just Google it. Look at the face of that. Like you could tell the director who did two films that I haven't seen, unfortunately, Delicatessen and City of Lost Children. I heard those were great kind of dystopian films. Haven't seen them, whatever. But dude, I get that they're trying to make this character look pitiful and stuff, but what is up with that creature design is terrible. What was that?
Yeah, that was bad.
That's laughable. And I don't know, just everything about this didn't make any sense. You have these pirates who just deliver prisoners to these scientists, and they're just doing these tests on the aliens. One thing that I actually like about the show is how the aliens escape. So yes, they have these aliens trapped, like captive basically, which goes against the law of alien itself, because they are the perfect organism, so they're not even supposed to be taken captive. What the hell? Even if they are being created, still kind of goes against their culture, whatever it is. But I like the way how they manage to escape, and then I wouldn't say how it happens, but then from there is just horror cliches 101, which you'll get into with a later entry. It's just all these characters that you don't give a shit about dying. There's one scene where Winona Ryder's character gets shot, and then she falls down into this pit with water, and then somehow she's back. But then you have this black fella who real skill with guns, and he happens to fall and he dies. I was like, so why he can just swim his way back out? He didn't get shot or anything. He falls and he dies, but the robot lived, right? Yeah, whatever. And then Ripley didn't care about her. There was just this thing about trying to impregnate her, and then the mother was there, and all these aliens and just shit didn't care about whatever. Yeah, but what were your thoughts on Alien Resurrection? Apart from it being just a laughably terrible movie.
Yeah, it was just a laughably terrible movie. I mean, and nothing worked. Almost nothing worked in that film. I mean, it had its moments. Yeah, it had its moments. It had some dumb moments, like again the basketball scene. I remember. I was like, wow.
Yeah, like Ripley playing basketball.
Goddamn cheesy and ridiculous.
What was that?
Yeah.
What?
But, yeah, nothing made sense. Whatever.
And then at the very end, before we get to a couple more entries. Yeah.
By the way, we forget to mention the fact that this was written by Joss Whedon,
who also was pressured by Fox. Because
Fox fucking it up.
He was like, well, this whole clone thing don't work, But it's like, no, we must have that because, Sigourney Weaver wants to be in this movie and nobody's going to see an alien movie without Sigourney Weaver. She's like, well, all right, fine, fuck it. And the man just went through hell because he had to do rewrite after rewrite just to please Fox and to please Sigourney Weaver.
With the bullshit,
With the bullshit, man. Yes, even Sigourney Weaver with she bullshit. I hate to say that, but she bullshit.
Yeah, she didn't need to be in this project.
She wanted to be in this, and she didn't want that, and all these little things, man. Like, what the hell? Come on.
Yeah.
But the end of it was like, okay, so they're back on Earth, and Earth is like this kind of post-apocalyptic waste. So I'm like, okay, so what happened on Earth during all these events of Aliens 1 to 4? Like, it's not this. They don't say anything. It just ends like that.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, it's really goddamn stupid.
Right.
And then, well, we can talk about just the general extra stuff in the franchise. Like, you'd have the video games.
Great.
Some pretty kick-ass video games, actually.
The one for PlayStation 1, I remember, what was it? It was Alien something. I can't remember what game it was.
Yeah.
But I remember playing
a bunch
that
of great games.
Time, yeah.
No, so the first big Alien game I got into was actually Alien versus Predator games. We're not getting into the movies just yet.
Yes.
But it had popular comics, Alien, the video games, a kick-ass, like shoot 'em up. Was part of that. That was great.
Brought out the AVP comics, and that was around the same night that they did, which was just as excellent. If you get a chance to check it out, please do. RoboCop versus Terminator, really badass, really awesome.
Yeah. It had the Alien games that came out. They had a recent Alien game for the PC I played. What was the name of this one? But that Alien Colonial Marines, which was a complete disaster.
Oh, never played it. Disaster, never bothered with it.
No, it like, don't play it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And in my opinion, what they did was tantamount to fraud by basically lying to people. But
wow, yeah.
But then they had the excellent Alien Isolation. That was a good damn game. Totally recommend it. You're basically playing is a stealth game where you had to run from an alien on a ship. That's it. That's your move. That's your game.
Yeah.
And it's really well done. I totally recommend it. Right. There are a bunch of great Alien versus Predator games where you could play as Predator and Alien in a first-person shooter kind of thing. Or you could play as a Marine, so it was Marine, Alien, or Predator, and you could play a kind of multiplayer kind of something with it. Those were great.
Yeah, those were great.
Those were at least solid for me.
Right.
And overall, they just had some great, solid Alien games. They had a game called, not part of the official Alien franchise, but it could have been, called Alien Swarm. This was just a top-down 4-player shooter where you're playing as a Marine, but it was basically in the same vein as the Aliens because the Aliens just acted like aliens anyway.
Right.
That was pretty badass. I recommend just playing that for people because it's just so much fun and well done.
Right.
Yeah. And overall, I just recommend. It has just a bunch of great games, and I'm sure I miss a bunch, but then we could get in. Well, we had to get into the Alien vs. Predator series.
Yes. And it's a good thing that you mentioned video games because the director of the first movie just so happened to adapt 2 of our favorite video games. Mortal Kombat, which still remains my favorite video game movie. And Resident Evil. So yes, Paul W.S. Anderson was brought on board to do the first AVP movie. And I remember seeing it in theaters because like, holy shit, we're getting an AVP, live action movie.
That movie...
Problem with it was that PG-13 rating though. At first I was turned off by it, but I was like, maybe it might be good.
Yeah, no, for me... So a couple of things. I don't remember hating this movie all that much, frankly.
It
was silly and dumb.
Unforgettable.
It was silly and dumb, and it totally breached a bunch of continuity. Like for some reason, I think Lance Henriksen was in this one.
Yes, and he was playing. He was playing a Wayland. I'm not sure which Wayland it was.
Right, so it was
Peter Wayland or whatever, but he was.
Well, no, it can't be Peter, but it'll be right. It was a Wayland.
Yeah.
But it was looking just like him, so it's like, oh, he tried to make one of the robots after his grandfather, whoever it is, whoever.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
Right.
Whoever. So now Layton, she was okay in this.
Yeah, she was serviceable in it. I was like,
right.
Yeah, why they have she in it? Okay, because they need a black female actress. Okay, but
that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, it was unprecedented having a black female lead in a sci-fi franchise out of all things, and she was actually a decent enough character in my opinion. True. And she's still fine as hell. So
and they gave her but they gave her some real goofy moments, especially when she teamed up with the Predator. Yeah. The moment that had me laughing, Trent, is when the freaking Predator took the xenomorph's head and took a claw and put it onto this spear. So basically, she have a shield and a spear. I was like, holy shit, this is so dumb.
No, but I
see them running together.
Because, right, so they explain the thing about why it is that the aliens and the predators fighting. And it's
Which
like, oh no,
it's makes sense when you think about it, yeah.
I love that. I thought that was a decent enough premise. Like, well, it's them being it's just hunting. They hunted them.
Yeah,
and
that's how you rise within your ranks. You become a warrior.
Right, and the aliens is like ultimate prey.
Yeah.
Yeah, the xenomorphs is the ultimate prey, and you're hunted down. Damn goofy hell premise, goofy as hell. But it totally worked for me. I remember having fun with this film. It was a dumb movie fucking suck. Let's be clear about that.
But yeah, but for me though, it's not as, yeah, continue.
Yeah, no, it's just not as insulting and ridiculous as the previous two Indian films, in my opinion. No. Actually, kind of put us above 3 and 4.
Me too. In my book, me too, because it knows what it is. It's goofy, it's silly, but for me, it's one of those shows you can just watch on a Saturday night when you have nothing else better to do. Is like, what's on TV? Oh, AVP, I haven't seen that yet. Shit, let me watch that. It's dumb, it's silly, but I, for the most part, didn't hate it. I did love it, of course, but it's fun. It is what it is, So I can't really argue with that. And then we have,
but then
you
had to squander that. You had to basically squander the little goodwill by bringing out the bullshit, the utter bullshit that was Requiem.
Yes, Alien
versus Predator.
Requiem, which I will say right now, in my opinion, is one of the worst movies I have had the misfortune of ever seeing. I saw this on big screen because Ship and me was like, yes, we get a rated R, yes! And I went in, I barely remember anything. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And I watched it recently, and I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Yeah, all right, this little side story, right? So on Facebook currently, all right, so I got inspired from this from Roger Ebert. So he has these books where he's talking about his favorite movies of all time, and then he also have like his worst movies of all time books, right? So I have this Facebook photo album where I put pictures of my best. While watching Requiem in preparation for this, I just kind of paused the show. I created this new album. I call it Bun This Movie, yeah? And the first picture that I put in it was a still from Requiem. And here's the thing about that still. It was brightly lit compared to the majority of this movie, because nearly everything in this show when it comes to the aliens and the predators are in freaking silhouette and shadow. You can barely see or understand what's going on. And the story is just so terrible. So, all right. So, yes, I like how they start off from the beginning where, where the last film stopped off, where, yes, one of the predators got killed, and yes, an alien bursts out, so we have this hybrid. Okay. Right. The ship crashes on Earth, the predators get wiped out, blah, 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 blah. But what gave me, when I saw it again, is how this lone predator who just sitting down there on his planet, la-di-da-di-da, having to pick up on this signal that, hey, my brethren get killed by it. So now I had to go down to Earth and find out what's going on, Jed. Nobody fucking with my team, Jed. I had to go and find them, Jed. I had to kill them. Whoever just killed my brethren, then I learned that slide out. Jump in a ship, come to Earth, realize, and he takes one of the predator's mask, puts it on, and gets his visual flashback of what happens. Like, oh, it's a pred alien now. So now I have to go and hunt this thing. But here's the catch: there are humans running up and down looking for characters, none of which I care about, and none of which you should care about. And then one particular scene, one of the characters runs away from the predator, and the predator just like grab him and skin him alive. I was like, but predators
don't kill humans. That doesn't make any sense.
No. You're not supposed to kill humans that don't pose a threat. Remember the original Predator, the guys had guns and they posed a threat, so that's why they got wiped out. Except for that's why the villager, the chick survived. Right. So this guy didn't even do anything. I don't even remember him pulling a gun at him, but all of a sudden you just kill him and skin him up or whatever. And he catches with this show, which this is the main reason why this movie feel. It's primarily a fan film. It's made by these guys, the Strauss brothers. They've worked on a bunch of not TV shows, on a bunch of music videos and movies. They worked on Avatar and Titanic and stuff in the special effects department now. So they were like, well, yeah, we're the biggest fans of aliens and predators. We could make this excellent movie about them together. And what you saw is just cliche after cliche, just their versions of famous scenes from the original movies. You even have a get to the chopper scene, which was like a slap to my face. It's like, really? Get to the chopper? Or I just need to do this again? And one thing about this show that I just really hated, he had all this set up with all these characters. He even had this Ripley knockoff, this chick who just came back from the army. I didn't care about her. I didn't care about her daughter. I didn't care about her husband, and he's the only character I recognize, because he used to play that shapeshifter dude from True Blood, the guy who used to work at the bar. Yeah, that was him. Sorry, the sport bar, the pub, whatever the fuck the place was. Yeah, he was that guy who suddenly used to turn into shapeshift into animals, and he used to love. He had a thing for Suki. But anyway, that's a whole other story, right? So he got killed off real shitty as well too. He looks at the windows like, I don't see anything, and then the alien just come and kill him. That's it. Everything else is just characters that you don't give a shit about. Just keep dying. The aliens just there running about. And, you know, it really shows what made the first two aliens so great. Is that because you had these tight areas, you know, this sense of claustrophobia, just being in these tight areas and not knowing where to go and where this alien could be. And now you have these aliens just running around in the open. It lessens the tension. It's just, these characters go here, and then to add further insult to injury, the lights go out, so it's all darkness and pitch black and stuff. So yeah, these aliens could just jump out of nowhere and just kill people. In one scene that just took me entirely out of the show. This was terrible. Like, just visually, graphic wise, it was just terrible. This random chick in a hospital about to give birth, an alien see her, and you know what he do? He just grabs her and bites her, and basically is like puking out eggs, and you just see it going down her neck. I mean, it was gross and it was nasty and it was disgusting, but it was just dumb, so dumb. And then her chest bursts, and you see like 5 or 6 chest bursters just going, you know. But everything about it was just terrible, and the music was terrible. The story was terrible. The characters poorly written. I just didn't care about none of that. But like I say, if it wasn't for that show, I would not have created that Facebook photo album. Burn that movie, Trey. That was a horrible movie, waste of time. Nobody should watch this show. But Ricardo, what are your thoughts on Requiem? Bullshit.
Yeah, I remember this. Well, I didn't see it in theaters, but I remember seeing it on cable.
Lucky you.
It was like, it was a mess. I didn't care. It really looked bad. I didn't care, and I remember what year that was 2007, right?
2007, yeah.
That was the year Spider-Man 3 came out.
And Venom was actually a better villain. Sorry, better alien than the aliens. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, there was, like, I had no idea who the protagonist was. So I say, fuck it. Let the Predator be the protagonist. Because he's the guy doing the most interesting shit in the whole show. He was going around killing aliens, being a badass. Yes, sure, he didn't see much of everything what was going on. Especially in the end, when he had to square off against the Pred alien. And it's just darkness and rain falling, all that kind of stuff. And at times you're thinking the alien is actually the Predator and vice versa. But yeah, the Predator was the star of the show. Like everybody else, I don't care. Nobody. They were expendable. Yeah.
Right. Yes, it's a shame.